Hey guys, we recorded this show this morning, and I'm at Cam's house now, and we've just done a little bit more research on something. So we're just slotting in this little bit at the beginning of the show. Even though it's not going to make sense at this moment, but it will when we get through the end of the show. Which, by the way, was really fucking fascinating, and we could have gone on for hours. But I just want to share screen with you for 1 second. We're going to focus on the year 1990. We didn't know we were going to focus on the year 1990, but what we didn't realize, which you're going to find out, is a few remarkable things happened in the 1990s, which is very relevant to what we've been looking at with the Mandela Effect today. So let me just run you through what occurred in 1990. Nelson Mandela was released from prison. For those of you who remember him being released from prison, it happened in 1990. I was not one of those people. I thought he was dead already, and we'd already done the rock concert, and everything had been, done and dusted. But in 1990, Nelson Mandela was released. The German unification, so the East and West walls came down. What? The collapse of the Soviet bloc. So basically, Lithuania declared independence from the Soviet Union, leading to the eventual dissolution of the USSR. These are massive, significant events. Margaret Thatcher resigns, all in 1990. Launch of the Hubble Space Telescope, birth of the World Wide Web, the Human Genome Project initiated. The invasion of Kuwait, the Iraq fucking war started, which was, as Cambell and I just was the first televised war. So I don't know if you're like us, who sat there and remembered watching it like a fucking video game, being shocked that we were actually seeing people like being killed in live, like real time. It blew my mind. So, I mean, these are significant events. Emergence of grunge music, expansion of the internet, and then, we started to get heavy into the Earth Day environmental awareness. Climate change is about to be introduced. But, like, just keep all those dates in mind. This was a significant year. All this happened at once. And one other very important thing, which is what the show is all about today. So, all right, excellent. We're just getting that in here. Enjoy the show. Good morning, Tartaria, Australia. How's everyone doing? Oh, Cambell, we've got Michelle Gibson in the house. There she is.
Woo!
Woo!
Michelle.
Oh,
Hi,
Welcome.
Kelly and Campbell. Great to
Yes.
see you.
And do you
mate.
believe a year ago we were all together driving on a bus through the Balkans?
Crazy.
Yes.
A whole year has passed. I can't believe it. My God.
I know, right? Time's weird. Anyway, welcome, Michelle.
So,
Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, thank you for coming.
so for anyone out there who bizarrely wouldn't know Michelle's work, do you want to give us a quick intro, maybe a little bit of a summary to like how you entered the scene and what you came into with? And 7 years on, Miss Gibson, 7 years on, introduce yourself a little bit.
Happy to. You got a couple hours?
But we've got hours,
We
mate.
do.
Well, it's interesting. We were talking a little bit before we got started, and I had no idea ever that I would be doing something like this. And I'm not coming from a professional background. I just got this stream of information living the course of my life. You know, I started noticing things when I was quite young, where I grew up outside of Washington, D.C. You know, things that I remember and started remembering more when I started doing my own research. But I really feel like I was born to do this because there's no reason for me to know anything about this from my background. You know, pretty conventional family, nothing out there. Southern Baptists. My parents were teachers. None of this. And I think I always had an interest in what was hidden. I liked shows like Unsolved Mysteries when I was growing up and In Search of, and you know, it was limited until the internet. There were a few things out there, but not a
Mm.
whole
The
lot.
old National Geographics.
Oh, yep, yep.
I
I
used to
love
love,
National
yeah,
Geographic. They
man,
were
I used to
excellent.
love that
What
stuff.
about the Twilight Zone? I was a big fan of the Twilight Zone. It used to freak me out, and I loved it.
I remember a couple of those episodes. You remember the guy looking out the plane and the thing on the end of the wing?
Yes,
Did you ever see
very
that one?
Yes,
clearly.
the
I remember
gremlin
that
thing,
one.
yes.
I think it's terror at 12,000 feet or something like that.
Yeah.
There's nothing more terrifying than seeing something on the wing of an airplane. Nothing
No.
more terrifying than that. All
So
right, so
yeah,
I
I'm old enough to remember that. I'm old enough to remember Laughing, which is what your background reminds me of.
yes.
Yeah. And I think Ruth Buzzy just passed away very recently. She was a staple on that show.
Yep. Yep.
Um, so yeah, I'm from that era. And hee haw, stuff like that. But so I always had an interest in things like this, out of place things in my environment, or I'd, you know, be walking along and I'd see a big megalithic stone and a smaller stone wall. You know, what's that doing there? That kind of thing. So I was aware, but I wasn't awake, I guess, until about 20-ish years ago. I would say 15 to 20 years ago. And I made some decisions. My husband passed away in 2001, and I kind of surrendered control of my life to outside of me, and that did not work. And when I finally had enough of it, I took off on my own. And I went back to Fairbanks, Alaska, where my husband and I had lived in the 90s. And it was from that moment on, from the moment I said, the heck with that, I want my life back, that things started to happen and come together.
Mm.
And I'm not a big TV watcher. I never have been. Not interested.
Yes, same.
Don't get any information from mainstream news. I get all of my information from alternative
Yeah.
media. And it was like the things started to come into my life that I needed to be able to do this work, like clockwork. And you know, books that I read, people that I met. Um, you know, you talked about Fukushima before we got started. So that was in 2011. Remember that clearly. And it was around that same time that I saw my first Megalithomania conference.
Yeah.
And that
Hugh
was hosted
Newman.
by Hugh Newman.
Mm.
And he's
Or
a
New
dowser.
Human. Which one?
Hugh's, yeah. He and that group of people, you know, like Michael Tellinger and Klaus Dona and Graham Hancock and, you know, all these researchers that are doing
Yeah.
this alternative research on ley lines, particularly. It was really dowsers that brought them back because they go out there with their dowsing rods and they find the energy lines. And Gary Biltcliffe was another one that was influential on my journey. So I'm you know, taking all this information in and I'm going, who built this? You know, this is all the same everywhere.
Yeah.
And then I learned about sacred geometry around 2007, and that was important because our these ley lines are built out along sacred geometry, and it's like our whole form right down to the cellular level is sacred geometry. It's like the creation pattern of the universe.
Yeah.
And then, you know, when you go further out, you know, as above, so below, we're still talking about sacred geometry. And if had I not learned about that, we wouldn't be sitting here talking because it was like things built on each other. And then I'm watching these presentations on megalithomania with these dowsers showing how things line up and all that other kind of thing. So when I discovered what I call the North American star tetrahedron, which is the Star of David shape in the North American continent, and extended the lines out, and my research is based on my finding of that, but it's been validated. And we can talk about that a little bit later on because Cambell was asking me about star forts and ley lines, and I'm like, yeah, for sure. You know,
Star
so
forts.
and lighthouses and railroads and the whole
Railroads.
nine yards.
Yes.
So so anyway, I started because I had been gotten that background from watching these other researchers. I feel like I stood on their shoulders because that let me know what to do with what I found. And I'm an intuitive researcher. You know, intuition is my superpower. It's not hearing things, it's not seeing things, but the intuition is very much a part of my process as well as, whatever, this information wants to come back in. And so I feel like we do have guides
Yeah.
that are helping bring this information back. And I feel that way about me. I mean, I feel like it's not my work. It's like I'm a vessel and this information's coming through. And then you add synchronicity to that, and it gets pretty wild sometimes with the synchronicities that happen along with it to get that information.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like sacred geometry, ley lines, and then I met a Moorish man in Oklahoma City when I lived there between 2013 and 2016. And it was through my friend Osiris that I learned about the Moors. And that was another huge missing piece of the puzzle. And so that's where I started my research 7 years ago in June of 2018, was with those main three elements, sacred geometry, ley lines, and the Moors. And that basically it gave me the paradigm from which to interpret what I was seeing. But not only that, it's like the whole flippin' story fell out of the ley lines about the original civilization and then about the cabal, the controllers, the colonizers, whatever you want to call them, and how they took over the Earth's grid system. It's all, I wouldn't know anything that I know about anything had I not done the work of actually going from place to place to place to place to place on these ley line alignments.
And
So
so you're basically lining up all the old world structures and cathedrals and star forts and different bits and pieces in a grid that are on ley lines, showing that
all
they are all
connected.
connected. Yeah.
So
It was beautiful.
7 years on, Mrs. Gibson, 7 years on. Where are you at right now?
I am putting the finishing touches on the third part of a series where I've looked at what's along the alignment between the Quetzalcoatl Pyramid in Teotihuacan in Mexico and the Great Pyramid in Giza. And the third part, where I'm going through Europe, across the Mediterranean, and into Egypt, is going to be probably a little over 3 hours long. I prefer not to do them quite that long, but sometimes that's just the information that needs to go in there, and it's been quite the journey. And I can tell you from looking at both sides of the Atlantic that you just find the same thing on the Mexico-US side that you see on the Europe North Africa side. And I don't just mean the ley lines, I mean the landscape. And where I'm at with it is I think the energy grid was blown out deliberately, the pre-energy generating grid. I think it sank the landmass. I think we're talking like we've heard the term Pangea,
Yep.
one solid landmass. I think that's what it was. And I think when the Earth grid, energy grid free energy generating grid was blown out. I think it sank land where the star forts were, where the railroad where railroad lines were, where lighthouses were. It just broke off there. So if you look at the southern coast of Australia, and you look at where you have Melbourne and Port Campbell and the Ocean Road, and you have the 12 Apostles,
Yeah.
and you have lighthouses. They tell us the lighthouses are, oh, we need them to guide ships. Of course, but they didn't build them.
Yeah.
No.
They have these hokey stories that go along with them.
Yeah.
Just like with the railroad, they have these hokey stories that go along with railroads when they built them, and running them through swamps and things like that. And I think that's just land that was ruined. And then after they destroyed the grid and changed the surface of the earth, I think they set about reverse engineering the grid into the matrix and setting it up as a control system
Mhm.
instead of
Nice.
what it was used for before, and have been hardwiring our energy to the grid.
Yeah.
Is what
Mhm.
Like
what I'm
loose
getting.
harvesting type stuff. Yeah. Any thoughts on who they are?
Not good guys, not humans. They're
Not
not,
good.
Yes, yeah. I
Not
gotta say
they're
they're
not
not
fun
us, right?
guys. Not fun guys.
Not fun
they
guys.
are, they need human energy. They need, source energy to survive. And so they have to get it synthetically. So they've been harvesting us. They've been
Mm.
harvesting everything. They've been harvesting animals. They've been,
Oh, yeah.
mining all the
It's,
resources,
yep.
tearing up the earth. They don't care.
Parasites. No.
They
I
don't care
mean,
about
Um,
the earth.
I love the word hard wiring us. That's so accurate, hey? Like, and it's so ironic because, for most people, you think you're living you're the opposite of hardwired. You're sort of in the ether. You're in the wireless world of whatever this is, but hardwired, it's like something we sort of like feel like we've moved past. But in actual fact, we are literally being hardwired. So do you think, Michelle, that the consent, do you think consent comes into this? Like as we move,
100%.
yeah, like so, because last show we were talking about the jab, and that just was like the final consent of a soul to move in to this sort of artificial realm, to this hijacked, hardwired realm. And even though we are all coexisting in this weird, timeline right now, there's a big chunk of the population that have not given consent. So how do you think that impacts the process of reality around an individual?
I think as people wake up, and that's why the work that you're doing is so important. That's why the work I'm doing is so important. We don't have to agree on everything. Just the fact that we're even doing it
Yeah.
and then taking the additional step of going public with it. I'm an introvert. I'm a total introvert. That's hard for me, but I have to do it. I couldn't live with myself if I had this level of awareness and didn't do anything with it.
Mhm, mhm,
And I felt that way when I started this 7 years ago.
mhm,
And I just go deeper down the rabbit hole.
mhm,
And so like with this video, I hope to have up by this weekend. I'm really, really close to being done. We'll have so many examples of why I believe what I believe. My brain feels like it's going to explode just from doing the research on this, but I feel like because it's something that's really different, I need to really provide as much supporting information as I possibly can. I'm kind of pulling it out of the ether. Yes, Atlantis sank, but it didn't sink thousands of years ago.
mhm,
That's part of the lie too.
mhm, mhm.
Yeah,
But
And
I
they
would
what's
did it for
agree.
the reason that you just said, Kelly, which is they had to have our consent.
mm,
So the only way they could get our consent was to like level everything and then bring us the new world
mm,
that they
mm,
that they created,
mm.
Mm,
So do
not
you
for our
yes.
benefit.
like Cam and I've been like theorizing on sort of this like literal split that's occurring. And we've all had these, we've all seen the images of the two Earths become, Earth becoming two, and this concept. But like from a vibrational level, it feels definitely there is a splitting up here, and and it's coming with a few side effects. Like one, for those who haven't given consent, from our perspective, it feels like time is sped up quite dramatically right now. We're being impacted by a shift in the sense of time. And then, of course, we've been really trying to deep dive on this concept of the Mandela effect, which when we start to look at the info and such a research online, there's very little content around a deeper look into the Mandela effect. There's lots of examples, lots of like fun things to look at, all this weird shit that's happening. But on a deep level, there's some actually big, disturbing things that are happening that we've sort of thought, well, is that actually the Mandela effect? So I'm very curious, Michelle, to talk to you about, because we had this kind of idea. Is it possible that the Mandela effect is actually the old grid seeping back through? Like, is there a concept that this energy that we would attest to being the old earth energy or the organic ether, or whatever your word is for it, never went anywhere. It's just that they fucked up the interface. So in the demolishing and the leveling of it all, they destroyed the interface of being able to utilize it, but it's never disappeared. And could it be that the Mandela effect is a result of this energetic force seeping through and back up into this, false grid that's actually causing these bizarre impacts, which we've called very clumsily probably the Mandela effect, which is essentially things being removed from the timeline, and not just removed from our sense of the timeline, but from all timeline, as in from all past, present, and future of it. So, you get this crazy, I mean, it's really crazy, and not many people are really getting focused in on it. How can a book suddenly change and then change all the way back, so that every copy of that book, every reference of that book, every documentation of the book has also shifted? Like, that's a bizarre thing to be going on right
Crazy.
now.
And movies, and then there's the even more bizarre thing that people are finding residue. So we've got like both realities sort of being proven. It's very, very strange. What are your
So,
thoughts?
yeah, what are your thoughts on the Mandela effect?
So I pulled up something that I've done in my research in the past that I wanted to share with you
Yeah,
before,
man. Do you
but
want to
before I
share
go into
screen?
that, just they definitely messed with time.
Yeah.
There's no question that when they did whatever they did, they messed with time, big time. Distortion, new timeline. I think they hijacked the old timeline. I have my own ideas about what that was about and how that happened, but they did mess with time. And I do concur with the idea. This is not something I know for a fact myself, but it makes sense to me that everything still exists.
Mhm.
Everything that's been destroyed still exists on another dimension.
Yes.
I've heard that before, and it
Yes.
makes sense.
Well, especially because
It,
we're vibrational,
yeah,
we're
yeah.
vibrational.
It's on a different
Yeah.
frequency, and it's like we've
Yeah.
been dropped, like the fall,
Yes.
right? The
Right.
fall of man.
And we're multidimensional beings ourselves, and we don't
Mm.
even know it. I mean,
Mm.
we all exist on all these different dimensions. I mean, we're having lives on space now.
Mm.
I believe that too. I don't have firsthand knowledge. That's not my gift, but I'm like, we're all, we're connected all the way up, 12
Yep.
dimensions or however many. And so we're all co-creating, each one of us as a creator ourselves is co-creating this world that we live in, that the data for it's been fed to us by whoever's causing this, because they can't touch us. So you get into sovereignty there and consent. So they had to give us this false system to get our consent, give us the alcohol and the drugs and the jobs and consumerism and
Money.
sports and distraction to keep us down.
Yeah.
Because I think before, humans knew who they were. There's no question about the shape of the earth, how we got here, what we're doing. They knew all of that stuff. They were able to practice connecting with their higher selves. And that was what they were doing. And then, they turned everything upside down, knocked us on our head, probably tinkered with us genetically, and and started programming us with what they needed us to be and believe.
Yeah.
But,
So,
Cambell and I were talking, it's like they always underestimate us because they're arrogant and they mock humanity, they mock the creator. And so that's just their mindset. It's like, we're better than you. Look at what we do, ha ha ha. And you don't even know it. You don't even see it. It's right in front of your face and you don't even know it.
mhm.
And that's part of the consent. It's right in front of our face, but they've given us
Put
false
blinders on us.
history and everything else to cover it up.
Mm.
Um, so saying that, there's a lot of elements that are kind of intangible. But one of the things that I've heard about I'm going to share my screen.
Yeah.
The Mandela effect is that CERN um, had something to do with it. I heard that a
Yes.
while back.
Yes.
Yes.
Just kind of
Interesting.
filed it away. And so when I was doing research since 1945, and I was just going into Wikipedia and looking at, what happened in whatever year and pulling out certain things to research, because that's a lot of information. And what I found was that in 1990, right at the very beginning of the year, two internet companies began selling internet service to commercial customers in the United States and the Netherlands. So one was PSINet, which was founded on December 5th of 1989, and that was in Northern Virginia. The interesting thing about Northern Virginia is that's where the CIA headquarters are located and DARPA is located
Oh, yep.
in this
Nice.
area. And then I grew up right here
Yeah,
in
right in
Rockville,
the middle of it all.
in Maryland. So I'm,
You were
surrounded by
destined to
this
be
stuff.
here.
Yep. Yep.
That's why I say I was born to do this.
Yep.
Yeah.
So 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 you get into the beginnings of the internet in 1990. And so starting in 1988, EUNet played a decisive role in Europe's adoption of the Internet Protocol Suite known as Transmission Control Protocol, or TCP, and Internet Protocol, IP, of which versions of it were known as the Department of Defense model because the development of its networking method was funded by the U.S. Department of Defense through DARPA. So once TCP IP was in place, this EUNet was able to connect with FNet and CERN's TCP IP connections,
Oh,
and a connection to the US was established.
Wow. Okay.
interesting.
Yes.
So that
Yes.
was January 1st of 1990.
And again,
So
they tell
that
us
was the
right there,
year,
right? It's a net.
Oh, it's
that was the
fascinating.
year that Nelson Mandela
Oh,
Oh, get fucked. Excellent.
was released. And that
Released.
happened on February 11th of 1990.
The version of Nelson Mandela, because I've seen lots of evidence that who Mandela was when he went into prison looks very different from the Mandela that came out of prison. Very different.
I don't remember him dying,
No,
which
me
is
neither.
interesting, the
yeah.
topic. I mean, I
Oh no,
remember
I do.
him
I
becoming
do.
president of South Africa and all that stuff. I remember that timeline. I don't remember the one where he died.
Oh, I remember
Um,
when he died. I remember there being a rock concert and everyone came out in solidarity. That's what I remember.
it is really weird. Um, so anyway, I talked a little bit about the Mandela effect here, and this is before I got to the next thing that I wanted to share, because I'm just going, going through the list. Um, and all these terrible things are happening. It's like we've been MK Ultra collectively for a very long time. You know, fires
Hmm.
and tents,
Yeah.
football stadiums, you name it, tornadoes, all this stuff going on. So I'm just bebopping along through 1990, and then I came across Please bear with me.
Just so you
It's
know, I'm
important.
totally excited by this, but I'm also walking right now to get that bloody German Shepherd back in. So I'm so fascinated. Go.
Okay,
I hadn't even know it was connected to CERN. The original internet came out.
No,
Fascinating.
yes,
so this is the same year. This is in, so it says Tim Berners-Lee began his work on the World Wide Web while working at CERN on October 1st of, which was 19 months after his beginning outline of it in 1989. So this is the beginning of the World Wide Web. And he built all the tools necessary for a working web by December of 1990.
wow, that's pretty quick.
Okay, so I just asked the question, the World Wide Web was invented by someone working at CERN.
Did you know that,
And then
Campbell?
another thing is,
I did not know that there was
No.
no an internet CERN connection. Of
Of course.
course, we
Why didn't
thought
we
that.
think of
so
that? Why didn't we think of that? All right, carry on.
so Campbell, did you go to Palmanova?
Yes, yes,
Palmanova looks like that.
yes, it does. Yeah,
Just a point of information I'd like to throw out there. It really looks like CERN.
yeah.
Now I remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, Michelle, but I remember CERN, the maths required to build CERN actually came out of the Cabal. It actually was part of um it was in the book. It was like the code. It was coded in. That's where they got the technology.
Interesting.
Carry on, sorry.
There,
Well, it looks like they got the info from somewhere because he built it in, well, less than a year, wasn't it?
Mhm. Yeah, I have no doubt. I mean, I have no doubt there's nefarious, probably non-human, probably not even here help, because they're the ones that are harvesting the energy. They need it, whoever this is, whatever entity, collective, a single organism, I don't know, but it's going somewhere.
Mm.
Um, so you've got the CERN connection,
With the 666, of course, in their symbol.
and there's a lot of crazy stuff associated with CERN.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of satanic activity.
Oh, the
There was
opening
some,
ceremonies. Fucking hell.
yeah. And then there was something, there was a tunnel that was open, the St. Gotthard tunnel in
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Switzerland or
yeah,
something.
yeah. The one in
Um,
Switzerland. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, with all
and
the
there was a human
dancing
sacrifice
beasties
associated
and
with that.
the big eye and yeah, I know, right?
Yeah. So
Crazy.
whatever's doing this is not our friend. Quite the opposite.
They are not fun guys.
They're not.
They are not
They're
fun
not
No.
happy
guys.
chappies.
So I was poking around the eastern end of Long Island. I better turn on my do not disturb. Nobody ever calls me, so it's like I forget. Okay, so I, I've done a lot of speculation about the Philadelphia experiment, and I wouldn't put the energy into it if I didn't think there was something really important there. And I've done a
Yeah.
lot of research to support that. I
What
think
was that?
the
The Phil
Philadelphia ex
Duffy. Phil.
Philadelphia.
Oh,
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia. Sorry. Yes. Interesting. Yeah.
So I do believe it was, I think it was probably the reason we got to this mess and the time manipulation, but I'm where I'm at right now is I think there were multiple attacks on the energy grid. So it wasn't just one. I think there were nuclear attacks as well. And I'm pulling together the evidence that I'm finding for that. But when you just look at the destruction on the surface of the earth, it's massive. I mean, even, look at the Australian outback.
Yeah,
It
most of
wasn't always like
Australia.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep, yep.
They got blown out.
It
Yeah,
did.
red.
And there were tons of ley lines going through Australia.
Yeah,
Tons.
I mean, Australia's is covered in red sand. Red. It's demolished red sand. Red
So,
something.
so this was a very, in my opinion, very deliberate attack. And the beings behind it knew it was their one chance to get what they wanted, which was power and control over everything. So anyway, I'm kicking around Long Island, and I'm I don't know what I'm going to get when I start looking at these places. I find out, and then I share it, and you find out. But there's a reverse of CERN on Eastern Long Island at the Brookhaven National Laboratory. And when I say a reverse of CERN, I mean a literal reverse of CERN. So this is what's on Long Island, and this is what CERN looks like. So CERN is the Large Hadron Collider near Geneva, and the one at Brookhaven is called the Relativistic Heavy Ion Collider, and it's a reverse accelerator.
So do you mean it spins in the opposite direction or
It spins in the opposite
in the
direction
opposite direction? Okay.
from CERN.
And where is are they on the same ley line, or are they connected energetically?
I would say so. Again, I think this was part of what happened. I don't think it was all of what happened. I think it was part of it.
I mean, if
Mm,
you've got two forces like doing the opposite,
yeah,
like you've created something there.
like opposite poles, opposite,
Yeah,
yeah, positive,
absolutely.
negative type thing.
And then there's all this high physics stuff here at Brookhaven. So you've also got what's called the National Synchrotron Light Source. And it's another advanced technology. And so just to give you an
Light
idea of
source.
perspective wise,
Mm.
Brookhaven is here, and then Montauk Point, where
Oh,
the
Montauk.
Montauk.
alleged Montauk project took place.
Yeah.
We're
Wow.
going to tell you that it's true without telling you.
Yeah, yeah.
Where they did, psychological trauma, MK
Based.
Ultra,
Yeah.
time travel research, things like that. But then I was researching something later and found out that the Wardcliffe Tower, Tesla's tower,
Yeah,
is
waterproof.
right
Yeah.
next to Brookhaven
Oh
on
my
Long
God.
Island.
Mm-hmm.
And of
Wow.
course, they tell us a story about everything.
Yeah, yeah, man. His
So,
story.
JP Morgan was Tesla's backer until he refused Tesla's request for more funding, and the project was abandoned. It was going to be sold for scrap. What was left of it was burned up in a fire.
Of
Same old,
course it
same old.
was. Yeah.
Um, and then what I think, and this is a really good example, when I say I think that the land split apart where the railroad lines were, and this is one example of that. So you had the Long Island Railroad, and then you have the railroad on the other side, which is
Oh,
going through places
okay.
like Connecticut and Rhode Island. And I think all of this is just, this land was just either sank. In this case, it probably sank. I think it was a combination of rip, tear, sink. Um, and I've got a lot of examples of that. Of where the land and the land through here just looks eroded and unstable through this whole area that I'm talking about here.
Hmm.
Okay. So this is Montauk Point, and then Philadelphia is down here.
Ah, okay.
And then there's Pine Barrens through here. There's Pine Barrens here, and this is where the Pilgrims were supposed to have landed. Pine Barrens. I mean, it's terrible land. Pine Barrens on Long Island, and then Pine Barrens in New Jersey, right next to where um, what you call it is the Navy Yard where the Philadelphia experiment took place. And then there's something with pine trees, like Pine Gap in Australia being the,
Mm.
you know,
Yes, yes, okay.
listening post of the world,
Yeah, yeah.
whatever else they're doing there. There's some quality of pine that's super important.
Well,
Yes.
yeah,
And
okay.
pines
Yep.
have like pine needles, right? There's a lot of needles and needle stuff going on.
Well, like it's also that's a foundational tree in the Anastasia series too. The
Oh,
cypress pine. Yeah, so and pine needles and pine oils and all of that was very sacred
yeah.
actually. And
Natural turpentine, yeah, is from pines.
and in the cypress pines it would the trees eventually would the energy coming through them was so big that they would explode and catch
Explode.
fire.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So they're massive conductors for energy.
And there's something about radio frequency, the bandwidth for radio frequency and the
Yeah.
pine needle. So it like blocks
Oh, okay.
a certain frequency range.
Oh,
So
don't
there's
stop sharing
something,
your screen, mate. I'm fascinated. Put it back up. Whatever you would.
oh, it's like,
Give us more.
Yeah.
yes. So all my research starts out as a blog post, and
And
then
and
that makes
just
it easy for me to go back and cross-reference.
one more is Back to the Future. Remember
Hmm.
at the start it was Twin Pines where he lived, and
Oh,
then one of the pine trees got knocked over, and in the future it was Lone Pine or something.
So funny that you should mention that because I do bring that up in here.
Oh, well, there you
Um,
go. Great minds.
it was so beautiful before they destroyed it.
Ah, I know it's but like you said, I mean, I think it still exists on a higher frequency. We've just been dropped, and so we just see, the remnants, the low vibration.
of course, there's the
Use
pineal gland. Hello. That's always been the symbol of the pine cone.
Ah, the pine
It's the
cone. Yeah,
pineal
good
gland.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Largest pine cone statue is in the Vatican.
in the
So
Vatican, but
Yeah,
that's
and they call it the pine cone.
and the
good point.
pineal
Yeah.
gland is like our like in inner antenna. It's like our antenna for sort of like that multi-dimensional energy. It's the pineal gland.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's the
yeah.
pine
The
cone
pine,
represent,
yes.
yes.
Very good connection.
Mm.
Wow.
So this is just the area. This is another example of dozens that I have accumulated where why I say that I think that the land broke off where these were, where lighthouses were, where star forts were. I think just the whole stress and trauma of that event. I think the destruction of the giant trees had something to do with the destruction of the Earth's surface too. I mean, I think it was like a domino effect. When the whole grid went haywire, it it pulled down because you can see what looked like tree stumps under the water.
Okay.
They called, sea mounts and geos and underwater volcanoes and things like that. I think they were originally giant trees. And they are on the floor of the ocean too. So I think that was all taken down.
Yeah.
But again,
We're
I've got
surrounded
countless
by giant tree
examples.
stumps here, like they're everywhere.
Yeah.
You have
So
to
Yeah.
come, you have
Once
to
you
come and
see
see,
them, they're
yeah,
everywhere.
Glasshouse
Same thing where
Mountains,
I live in
man.
Arizona.
Mm.
so it's interesting with the pine cone. I've just looked at some old stuff I have on it. It's actually the resin and the structure of the actual pine tree is a conductor of charge. So it's got a word. It's I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but P
Piezio, piezoelectric.
piezoelectric
Yeah.
charge under pressure. So essentially, it basically acts as a natural battery field. And apparently in ancient times they deliberately planted pines as energy vortexes. So that's just very interesting.
That is
Side note.
very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's all connected. Let me see here. I think I'm getting close, and if I'm not getting close, I'm getting close to something else. Um, I have talked about that, but yeah, there's Back to the Future is like the best predictive programming for 9/11 that there is, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, right. Okay.
All
Yeah,
the
the
references
trees.
to 9/11.
Like,
But I have
oh,
another 9/11
okay.
that's interesting. So with this alignment, so like this isn't exactly the Philadelphia experiment ley line that I've been looking at, but you can see the connection up here to Long Island. Um, Bell Labs Homedale complex is really important. Um, radio astronomy was found there by, of course, I'm not going to be able to pull his name off the top of my head right now, but anyway,
Mhm.
so they first detected the signal from the galactic center and stuff like that. I
Oh,
think all that technology was already in place.
yeah.
But there's these amphitheaters that go along this here. I think the Appalachians here are the remnants of whatever, land slippage happened after this cataclysm. I think it's like it just like flowed like a river. And that's what we call the Appalachian Mountains here today.
Mm.
But what's really interesting is that this amphitheater down here in Charlotte, North Carolina, so these are kind of on this alignment here, was the last concert for Paul McCartney's New World Tour. And that was in
Ah.
1993.
Perfect. Perfect. Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Paul, for your new Earth
So-
tour.
If
Great.
that's who you really are, Paul.
No, thanks, Paul. That's perfect.
Billy,
Should I call you, yeah, Billy?
Billy Shears, Paul is dead. Excuse me.
Paul is dead.
Yeah, man.
Anyway, carry on. But
You remember-
perfect. The new, what's it called? The New World Tour, the New Earth Tour.
New World Tour.
Yeah.
And so when I saw the album cover the first time, 9/11 didn't come to my mind. But then when I looked at it again, it
What-
did.
What is that supposed to be?
Excellent. The towers, man. Coming
Yeah,
down.
no, I'm just
behind
wondering
you.
what it's supposed to be on the poster. It's just very random sort of thing there, isn't it?
Well,
You
it's-
think.
it's the New
Yeah,
World
yeah,
Tour.
yeah. That's
New World
exactly
Tour.
right.
And
Good on
then
you.
this was the artwork for the concert, for the New World Tour.
What? Are you serious? What?
Wow. Yeah. Fucking excellent.
The cathedrals, man.
Yeah, right. The old Masonic symbols. Perfect.
So yeah, I got a lot of stuff I can share, but it gets to be too much. So
No.
just
no,
got to
Michelle.
kind of winnow it down a little bit for you.
Take us to the too much. Take us to the too much. Well, look, that's fascinating because if we look at pine trees as like, say, the Earth's tuning forks, like, and we look at the pineal gland as like our biological Stargate, our biological access to multidimensional realms. And we look at CERN as being like the artificial timeline device. So it's like the artificial version of it. And then we look at the Mandala effect, and it's kind of like the evidence of this quantum entanglement breaking, like the container, breaking the containment. Like it's, and then we've got this like really bizarre entanglement that's happening between all these elements, and reality is doing really weird fucking things. Really weird things. So interesting. I've actually I've never linked it to the pineal gland. How dumb of us, and never linked it to pine trees, and then never even connected to CERN. Jeez, Cambell, we
I
have to get our
know.
shit together. That it's
We
like
do. We
really
do.
obvious connections that we haven't
Yeah.
talked about.
And what year was the Philadelphia experiment? Was that
It was
48?
in 1943. So I think it was
43.
1943. When I first looked into it, I got the date of July 12th or July 22nd of 1942. And the timeline I've identified is between 1492 and 1942,
Yes.
with 1717 as the midpoint year.
Yeah,
And then I
yeah.
started researching the timeline from 1717, all kinds of stuff fell out. So I
So-
think there's something to that. But the interesting thing about the date that's coming up more consistently now is August 12th of 1943, which was during the Lionsgate.
Interesting.
You know, the Lionsgate portal, which has
Yeah.
the infinity symbol. And that would be a logical time for the time manipulation. And as far as I'm concerned, Aleister Crowley's at the bottom of this mess. Can't change my mind.
Okay.
I think he's all behind this messy world with all the gender ideology and all this
And so
stuff.
that
And I
would
think he brought in these demonic
and that would run back to
beings.
John Dee. Do you sort of link him in there as well?
You know,
Sorry.
John Dee might be, so I don't know who's real and who's not.
Yeah. Well, John Dee is
You know,
William Shakespeare,
I
isn't
think
he?
before a certain time, it's all backfill.
Yeah.
And then you get into the work of people like Anatoly Fomenko, and you get the phantom timelines, and the 1,000 years and all that kind of stuff. I think
Yeah.
that's important work. But then I think at some point they wrote themselves in, and
Yes,
our history
totally.
becomes our history with them in it.
Yeah.
And so when that happened, I'm not 100% sure, but I put it somewhere in the 1700s.
Yeah, yeah, me
And
too.
1717 was the year that the Premier Grand Lodge of England was founded. And they infiltrated through the Masonic lodges
Mhm,
because
mhm.
the original Masons were Moorish Masons. And it was their Moorish science that they hijacked. I mean, they can't do what the original builders did, but they can, you know, do their magic and rituals and spell cast
Yeah.
um, us to keep us bound in their craziness, and then
Mm.
just throw stranger and stranger things. So there's the time thing, but then there's also the social engineering that's been going on.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, up is down and right is wrong and wrong
Two
is
plus
right.
two equals
And
five. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's gone crazy in the last
you know,
2 years.
but they, so like indoctrination in schools and things like that, you know, the
Mm.
getting into the public school system, you know, I know it's bad in the States. I don't know about Australia, but they get this
Oh,
programming and they're, go for the youngest of the young and start
very
this
bad here.
brainwashing,
Yeah.
um, and gender confusion. And yeah, sure. Yeah, yeah, we'll help you. Don't tell your parents.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. I
Don't
know,
tell your
right?
parents
It's
you're going to become a
shocking.
yeah,
boy or a girl if you're the opposite. So I think that's, to me, the kind of person that Crowley was, this black magician, bisexual
Yeah.
thing. And then the whole idea of the Baphomet, it fits in with what we're seeing socially, that those who follow alternative media and are awake to this know what's going on, and the other people don't know. All
Mm.
the men that are presented as women, well-known,
Yeah,
well-known men,
yeah, yeah,
and there's
yeah,
a
yeah.
procedure called, or well-known women, and there's a procedure called where they do it in utero. They give them
What?
the opposite sex hormones. If you look up
yeah,
Free Martin.
yeah,
Wow,
So
okay.
you have the really ugly men that think they look like women or want to be women, and then you have the beautiful women that are really men, but you don't know that.
yeah.
Wow.
Basically, all of
And I
them.
think I think that's the difference, that the ones that really look like women had that
Mm,
done.
that's
Free Martin.
interesting.
Look it up.
And Crowley also like channeled Lamb, didn't he? Who was like the grey. He looked like the sort of grey. So do you link like what do you think aliens are? There's something definitely something going on, right? There's other things here.
Yeah, there's what's taken place here is under non-human entities,
Mm.
um,
Are we
that
talking
had a beef against the
dimensions?
creator. Probably. I mean, I think they incarnate into human form. They found a way to get in and into human form. And I think, like I said, I think they started from ground level after this place was destroyed, and they just brought things up online, got things working again. And then when they didn't need them anymore, like most of the railroads and most of the streetcars,
Yeah.
they took them out after they mined the heck out of everything. I mean, Melbourne has like one of the most intact streetcar services anywhere in the world.
Mm.
Other places had that, but they were taken out.
Yeah, yeah, they
Sydney
Mm,
still has some, but
mm.
Melbourne's is still pretty intact
Yeah,
compared to other places.
yeah.
That's unusual. I mean, Tasmania used to have that, for God's sakes.
yeah, yeah. Oh, they were in every city, like these
You
tram
wouldn't know it,
systems.
you know?
Yep. No, thanks, Mr. Rockefeller, for that one. Wow.
So Crowley was sort of like late 1800s, sort of moving into the early 1900s, wasn't he? That was sort of his
So
timeline.
he was born, I think, sometime in the 1870s, I believe.
Yeah, yeah.
And then he supposedly died
40s, was it?
late 1940s,
Hmm.
but I don't
Yeah.
think he died.
No. Yeah.
I kind of
Ah,
think I think he
interesting.
was Barbara Bush myself, but
Oh, yep, yep. Why? Yeah, well, they look similar. They look
well,
really similar. Why not?
well,
I think, yeah, go on.
let me show you something.
Yep, go
So
on.
people have said for years that Barbara Bush was his daughter.
Yes.
I think it was Aleister Crowley. And you also hear that Betty White, the
Yeah, yeah,
actress, was his daughter, which makes me sick.
yeah. Oh,
The
not
golden girl,
Betty, not
the
Betty.
delightful golden girl,
Yeah.
Betty,
I used to
like
watch that
really
with my
bad,
grandma. Yes.
um,
He's yeah, yeah, absolutely. Now you've said it. He absolutely, totally. I already know. I can already see it in my eyes. Yep.
It's like,
Yep. I know. Check it out. Yes.
yeah,
Wow. Wild. Yep. Okay. So he transitioned over to Barbara Bush, which
that's what I
means,
think.
yep, makes sense to me. I'm taking that one, which means that, he's basically controlled all sense of politics and government
Yeah, well,
ever since.
George
Um,
Bush Senior started the FBI, right?
yep. Yep.
CIA. He was
Oh,
CIA
CIA was
director.
it? Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and he was, he's been rumored to have been in Dallas the day Kennedy was assassinated.
Yes, yeah.
Um,
All mixed up
that
with
kind of
that. Of
thing.
course, his son
Um,
was president when the towers fell.
Was
and
Crowley
that was
Jewish? Was he a Jewish?
n- no, no.
Mm.
I think so. The information that I have gotten back mostly from other people that's kind of sent some documents. Um, he was contacted by a Gray, and he had an experience when he was in the Great Pyramid on his honeymoon with his new wife, Rose Kelly, and they probably did some kind of ritual thing there, sex magic or something like that. And and so I think it was through the physical form of Crowley that these beings with this horrific agenda incarnated and came in. I mean, they have, siphoning pain, especially children, as
Mm,
Mm,
their agenda.
mm.
It's horrible.
mm,
Well,
And
sorry, go on.
it's this sexual misery strategy. And we see that playing out in our world today. It's just sexual misery. And people are being lied to about everything. And I'm very optimistic. I mean, I see more signs of it and people are waking up more. Not everybody, but it seems so exposed now that anybody that has eyes to see and is open to it can see it. Um,
mm.
and when you get down to how much we've been lied to about our history, about our science, about everything, it's like people have academic careers and careers based on all of this stuff.
I know.
And it's just not
Yeah.
true.
Well, I mean, Aleister Crowley may not have started Jewish because he wasn't, but his whole work was about the Kabbalah. Like he fully took the Kabbalah. That's where he got all of the portal dimensional. So he was obsessive and is renowned as being one of the big code breakers of the Kabbalah. So he may not have started Jewish, but he certainly swallowed and gobbled it up and broke the Kabbalah, broke through the
He
Kabbalah.
was he was into this,
Oh, he was
the
Ah,
interesting.
Hermetic Order of the
Yeah,
Golden Dawn.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that was based on
one
alchemy.
eight eight eight.
It
Nice.
Yeah.
was like it came from the Invisible College of the Rosicrucians or the Rosicrucians, and that started in our narrative. Put things around that in our narrative in the 1600s. Um, so
So,
yeah, check that out.
so
So it was definitely Kabbalistic stuff, but it's not what we would normally think of because what they did was they inverted everything.
yeah,
So, they inverted sacred geometry and turned it into its opposite. And people hear about sacred geometry now and they don't trust it because of the inversions. And it's like,
yeah, yeah,
it's like seeing 666. It's like so associated with Satanism. It's a numerology thing.
yeah,
And so
yeah.
like all numbers have characteristics,
Mm,
called angel numbers. So 666 means something completely different as an angel number. 111, 222, 1111, 999, 888, they all have different
yeah,
significances.
yeah.
So everything that we've been taught has been
Flipped.
inverted.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree. Like, what do you think is like if Aleister Crowley became Barbara Bush? Like, do you think what they've got extended life spans, or are they got clone technology? What's your thoughts on all this and like, all this, people becoming other people, did they really die? Did Jimi Hendrix become Morgan Freeman?
There's all kinds of technologies that's just been kept from
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
And definitely on the cloning. You know, they have blood, offer blood to people as like an elixir of life. The blood of young children,
Yeah, yeah, that
adrenochrome.
old A crime, yeah.
Those things could be in there. They probably do have some kind of transfer technology, transfer of consciousness. Um, we really don't know what's real.
Mm,
Even I think even with the good things that are happening, we don't even know what's real. I mean, I've heard
Yeah.
JFK wasn't assassinated.
Yeah. Yeah.
You hear about the moon landing, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
You know, um, so we like with everything, we just have to be discerning. And that includes what comes from our community. We're just doing what we are called to do. And it's not supposed to come from the grassroots up. It should have come top down, but it didn't.
no, no,
So
we
we're
got
left
hijacked.
holding these different pieces of the puzzle going, what am I
Yes,
supposed to do with this?
because we are the fun guys, man. We're the largest underground movement in the world. We mimic the fun guys. The fun guys. So,
Yep.
all right.
Kept in the
So
dark, fed bullshit, but we still grew.
that's right. And forming a telepathic internet of our
Yes,
own.
of not mycelium, yes.
Yeah,
And
mycelium.
really encourage people to do their own research.
Yeah.
That's
Mm,
the biggest message I could get out there. Don't just believe us because we say it. Do
mm,
your own research. Start in your own community because it's there. This is
yeah.
everywhere.
And don't
The
don't
evidence
judge
is
everything
everywhere.
as true or false. Like just keep it open. Everything's just interesting, right? Like this whole I'm right, you're wrong crap that goes on all the time because people think they know the truth. It's so limiting and so annoying.
Or they are the
Right. And
truth. Yeah.
that's how we got here.
Yeah.
It's like people want one size fits all. I get it. Like I said, my brain's about to explode because I'm just
Just
trying to
give me the
process all this
answers.
information. And I can't even put it all in there because it's just okay. I've got a 3 hour video going here. I can't add this, and it's fascinating as hell. Um,
Mm,
because the other thing that I'm seeing, and I didn't put this in there, so you're getting it here, is that so Teotihuacan in Mexico has been known. I've known this for years. Was known as the place where men became gods. And there's
yes.
mercury underneath. It was found underneath these temples.
Yes.
So high spiritual energy. I'm tracking this alignment across Europe and it goes through southern France. And who do I find but Mary Magdalene?
Yeah.
And the Cathars are from that area
Yeah.
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
Andorra and that whole thing. Well, the Catholic Church and the French president have Andorra locked down as theirs. They're the unelected princes. The Catholic Bishop of Urquell in Andorra and the French president, whoever that is, are the rulers, the unelected rulers of Andorra. They want to lock that area down forever. Why? You know? And that's where, one version is Jesus and Mary were married and had kids. Another verse, so the three Marys came across and landed, and that's on this alignment too in Saint Marie de Mers, um, right through this area. And this is just northwest of Egypt. And then I'm looking around Egypt, around the Nile Delta, and even around the alignment itself. There were a lot of monasteries and Sufi Muslims. Now, Sufis were mystics
Hmm.
and practicing the inner dimension
Mm,
of Islam, which is the original Islam, was that. It wasn't what we see. That was radicalized and weaponized. And another cruel twist when they brought in organized religions to take our power away from ourselves about who we really are and replace it with division.
External worship and
Do you
division.
know that?
Mm.
Hey,
So
take your screen off, Michelle, so I can see you again.
I did. Oh, I thought I did.
There we go.
I'm sorry.
Andorra
I didn't know.
and Andorra is actually a Mandela effect. Did It's
Okay.
actually
I
known
didn't know
as a
that.
yeah, it's known as a Mandela effect. Some people don't even remember it all. Some people have no sense of it even existing. It's actually in a Mandela effect, ironically. Just thought I'd share that.
Oh.
So anyway, so there's Teotihuacan in Mexico where men became gods, and then there's the Cathars in southern France, and they were very spiritual. And then they were supposedly massacred by the Catholic Church for
Yep.
50 years or however many. And then I'm finding Sufis in Egypt where the whole thing looks completely blown out. And then Sufis in India in the Indus Valley in the Thar Desert where you have the stories of the Mahabharata and the Brahmastra, which was a projectile which destroyed everything. And there's still radioactivity there today. That was a highly spiritual area. So it's like they were going after not only the highest consciousness people on the earth, but they were using the the pyramid grid. And this goes to Bosnia also. I mean, I've got some data that I still have to process it and work through it. But if you the Bosnian pyramid lines up with other pyramids, lines up with Olympics, lines up with nuclear sites, lines up with Olympic Games, lines up with craters, and you find the same thing in Australia.
Yep.
Pyramids, nuclear sites, nuclear test sites, and craters. And they're on alignments. So they're doing something. Well,
So do you,
they're using the benefits of the pyramid powered grid system because airports are there, so they're probably using the power for that. There's a lot of agriculture along these alignments. So the original civilization, I'm sure, was using it for their good, but the controllers have used it to grow their GMO crops and things like that. Um, so it's very complex what they've done here. And we know the loving energy of the Bosnian pyramid and all the places that we went to. Um, there in Visoko and then in Artan in Serbia. Just incredible energy
Mm.
and incredible people
Mm.
who live there. I'm getting goosebumps.
I have to say it was
Y-
a striking comparison to Egypt. Because I just spent a month there and like it's soulless and dead. Just interestingly, like the difference between the Bosnian pyramid and Giza and all the temples and pyramids we saw, Egypt feels like a theme park, reconstituted,
Mhm.
relocated, restructured theme park, whereas the Bosnian pyramid felt living and alive. It was
Living
very
and
different.
Mm.
and pure
Yep.
and I mean just blow you away kind of experience
Oh, yeah.
and the loving nature of the people that are there.
Michelle, do
And
you
they're
remember? Sorry.
no, I mentioned I think I told you guys when it happened. It's like the only thing that I saw and that little the place where we had the meal at our ton that night was a painting of the goddess. And the guy said, not for sale.
Mm,
I didn't really want to buy anything else,
mm,
but it's like they have this understanding of the goddess energy and what's there, I feel. They know
mm,
what's there. It's Vril or chi or whatever it is in abundance.
mm.
So if you can kind of look at the grid also as maybe how the creator connected, source energy connected with Earth.
I mean, you
And then
mentioned,
seeing,
sorry, go on. I want
no,
to
no, I was
interrupt
just
you
going to say,
like
and then,
5 times.
and I'm just saying, seeing these highly spiritually advanced people right at these locations that were destroyed And you're right, Egypt is just like Disney World, the
Mm.
way they've commercialized it.
Yeah, and cut
And
it
then
up and moved it.
I found things, I'm not looking at necessarily at the pyramids. I'm looking at things along the alignment, and I'm finding things, unexpected things, just by looking at what's in the surrounding area. And so they removed the energy grid from our awareness, and then they did all kinds of things to reverse engineer it, including schools and churches and sports centers all along these alignments. And that's just part of what I found. And that's on both sides of the Atlantic. The same things in golf courses. Um, there's a lot of hunting on the alignment going through the southeastern United States of all kinds, I'm sure.
Mm.
Animal hunting, and I wouldn't surprise. There's big estates owned by elites like Ted Turner in Georgia that I have no doubt they're doing
Yeah,
human hunting.
yeah, yeah.
So big quail hunting plantations.
Yes, yes.
They're quail hunting there.
So,
Quail
Lots and lots.
hunting, is it?
Quail hunting
Yeah.
capital of the world.
Oh
G-
God.
sounds so wrong in a sentence, doesn't it? Quail hunting capital of the world. So such fun. So
Albany, Georgia.
are you theorizing here, just to like get my head around it, that the old grid, who was built not by us, obviously, was an interface to this organic energy form, life-giving, in service to energetic form. A question to you, do you think that's different to what we would consider advanced intelligence? And B, the vril you just mentioned, back to the old vril conversation, which I love, by the way. The vril, from my knowledge, is underground. It's underground and part of under. And where do you come in with underground civilizations? And then with all of that stuff, and we bring in, so the Mandela effect started sort of to be apparent like 2015 or something. So why has it taken so long for these sort of like glitches to
Well,
appear?
mm. And then we have the Y2K 2000, the launch of the internet, and now the CERN connection that we know. But sorry, that's about 15 questions there, Michelle.
I know.
No,
It's like
that's
this.
because I wanted to
Um,
interrupt you about 10 times, but there's all the
it's,
interruptions.
it's like, can you repeat
Oh
that?
shit.
So
Shit,
let me work
no.
backwards. So yeah, yes, on underground civilizations. I mean, the infrastructure is there. I think that people lived underground when the surface was not, you
Habitable,
weren't able
yeah.
to live on the surface. Um,
Post-cataclysm, yeah.
I do think they're probably, I mean, you hear about Agartha and Palos and Mount Shasta and things like that. I mean, it's there, as above, so below. Um, I think that like deep underground military bases, DUMBs, they probably didn't build. They probably just took over something that's already there. I've heard about underground rail,
Yep,
maglev kind of things.
yep.
Um, so the cabal's been operating under the earth with a lot of their stuff. Now, could there be benevolent civilizations? I have no problems with that. Um, they had to go somewhere. I think a lot of the survivors were probably just killed. I think that's what like the Civil War was all about and stuff like that, and covering
Yeah.
up the civilization.
Mm.
Um, so a lot of questions there. On the Mandela effect, I think it's hard to say on how long it's been going on. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what year that I became aware of it. Um,
It was around 215,
and
16, 17.
what I've heard are, things like the Berenstain Bears and Bragg's
Mm,
apple cider.
mm,
The latest I think is like Depends. They
mm,
will always
mm,
be Depends to me.
mm, mm,
Depends. Yeah, we're
mm,
not doing
mm.
with
The
that one.
adult
Yeah.
incontinent product where
Oh,
it's
okay.
now it's Depend. And this has
Ah,
been within
okay.
the last year or so. It's like, no, it's Depends. Just
Did you,
like it's Bragg's. It will always be Bragg's.
my latest
And
one,
then
did
there
you
was
see the
another
sword in
one.
the stone? You know that cartoon, The Sword in the Stone? Have you
Mm-mm.
seen that? It's like a Disney, like it's about King Arthur. It's the Sword in the Stone. And it's still called the sword in the stone, but now the stone is an anvil. Like the sword is stuck into an anvil.
Yeah, right. Yep.
That's the craziest thing ever. But anyway,
Yep.
sorry, keep going.
So there was another one where Moses came down from Mount Sinai with two tables and not
What?
tablets.
Two tables. Jeez.
And the irony is the Mandela effect could in itself be a Mandela effect. So we like me, like the fact that we're kind of vaguely remembering it coming in around 215, 16, so that in itself could be a Mandela effect.
Like I said earlier, I mean, I definitely remember Mandela living and don't remember him dying.
Which is weird because I totally remember him dying.
I wasn't
Um,
watching the news at that point, so I don't know.
So Vril, I don't know that it's necessarily underground. Um, I mean, it's chi, it's life force energy. It is what it is. It can be used for positive,
Yeah,
which I think the original civilization was using it for,
Hmm.
or
negative.
negative.
Yeah.
And that's what the controllers have been doing.
Okay, so then
I want,
premise theory, sorry, interrupting theory then. Could the Mandela effect be a result of the real energy, the chi energy? I like the word chi energy. The chi energy, um, like so we've got the ensnarled, trapped, artificial CERN version of this hijacking of this energy, trying to like smash it and change it. It's like a really physical, technological force up against the consciousness of us who are utilizing that same energy grid and that same chi energy to awaken and expose and to evolve ourselves. So, is that what's going on? The same energy being used in the its opposite polarity. Because we did not just come here like without being empowered by a charge. So there's the same charge is being utilized in opposite ways concurrently at the moment, there's something there.
that would make sense to me. I mean, um, we were also talking before we got started about the vibration rising,
Mm.
Hmm.
and light energy. We're in that time and place and space that was long predicted. The controllers knew it was going to happen. That's why they've done all of this stuff to
Yeah.
keep us from waking up. They couldn't stop it. And not only that, but all this light energy is coming in. And I also don't rule out the possibility that there's something coming directly from source back in. We're just there at that time. Talk about the Mayan calendar and the shift of the ages and 5D stuff. You mentioned the
Yeah.
bifurcation earlier.
Age of
Don't know
Aquarius.
what that's going to look like, but
What
there's a lot
about
of stuff going on right now.
what about the monoliths?
Oh,
Oh,
yes,
the
the monoliths.
monoliths
Yes, that
I
was one
find quite
question.
fascinating. I've got to yell out for the dog. I'm fucking
Okay.
so sorry about this. It's so annoying for everyone at home. The German Shepherd has escaped in the middle of
Again.
our podcast.
Oh,
Like, how diabolical is that? So now I have to
yeah.
interrupt myself and my interesting flow. And so fuck. Just anyway, carry on. And yeah,
Yes.
like, that's fascinating, right? The monolith.
The
Like,
monoliths, these metal monoliths. One's just popped up in Las Vegas, apparently, like last week. Do you know about all these monoliths? Have you been following it at all?
I haven't really been following it, but I've been aware of things that come across my social media feed.
Hmm.
And I do remember Space Odyssey
Yes, the
2001.
ape scene, the famous, yeah, monolith scene with the apes and exactly. And there's now a couple of thousand of these, and they all appear overnight. No one ever sees them being constructed or put up or anything. And it looks like the government go in and try and take a lot of them down, or at least they say they're going to. So that kind of would make you think that it's not them putting them up. Like we're theorizing maybe it's another grid system of some kind, almost like the anti 5G network, right? It's a grid that's sending out different frequencies across. What are your thoughts on that?
we must be up to like 1,800 of them too.
Hmm.
Yep.
that brings crop circles to mind.
Crop
Oh,
circles,
Those have been going on
yes.
for a long time, but the same thing,
that's
nobody
true.
sees them, and they're trying to say some guys are out there with
With
boards on their
boards.
feet, flattening the wheat or the corn or whatever it happens to be, and they're very complex designs. Um,
Very complex.
I just want to show you something that
Let's do.
with regards to the original energy grid system. And I'm going to work this into the end of my the one I'm working on right now. Um, so I envision something like the system working like this. And you've got the belt star idea, that Orion's belt.
Yeah.
But you have that. And I think this is like an artist's drawing, but you have examples like the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun where they've actually captured
The
the
beam,
light
yes.
beam.
Orgon energy, yeah.
If I can get what I'm looking for. We probably stood in front of that sign. Just okay.
You're looking for
So
the here we go.
so you've got photos recording a light beam coming out of places like the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, and also in Mexico, in the Yucatan, you've had the
Yeah,
same type of photography capturing that.
yeah.
Okay, so that type of power source coming in, and then what I really wanted to show you was
Oh, okay.
some
So
things that I've encountered.
you think that energy is flowing into the pyramid?
Oh, not up from
Right,
a top, not up.
Ah, okay. Interesting.
yeah, down.
Okay. It's a
So
download, literally. Yeah, right.
That's
I
interesting.
encountered this picture in Petrópolis, Brazil, and a lot of cathedrals have their steeples missing.
Yes.
And this has a blue glow, luminous blue glow.
Nice. And there's that one in
And
Thailand,
then,
that building. Have you seen that with the sort
Yes,
of
I've seen that.
going around in circles like this energy out the top of its spire?
so this is similar to that. This one's in Poland, and this showed up on my social media feed not that long ago.
Do you
Nice.
think that's coming down?
That actually looks like it's going up, but like it looks like a gas, the propane gas on a
Mm.
stove, but it's still blue, blue glow. And this one apparently just reactivated. Doesn't always do this.
Interesting. Because that's a theory too. Yeah, do you think this is all gonna reactivate? Like all the pyramids will start shooting beams out, all the thing will well, is that possible, first of all, with with all the damage they've done, and do you think that'll happen?
I think
Just
it's on another dimension,
Yeah.
and other people have talked about places spontaneously reactivating, like the one I just showed you in Poland. Um, and also, I think even though they've destroyed a lot of the grid, I think a lot of it's still functioning. I mean, I've heard that about electrical power generation. They're charging us for something they're not
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
generating.
Yep, yep. Totally.
I'm just showing some background images of monoliths. I mean, you can like because I find them fascinating because some of the channels that I listen to channel content about the monoliths and how they're basically here to help facilitate the charge that's going to be a part of our very near future in a
Hmm.
positive way. I mean, who knows? Fuck it, I don't, who knows? But there they are for anyone who didn't know what we're talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
And if
Well,
you think about the end of the 2001 movie, if that was
Yes,
disclosure, why were the monkeys interacting with the monoliths? Why the
yes,
monkeys?
yes.
exactly
Let's
right. But yeah, and yeah, we're told that was where we came from, right? Until we, gosh,
Right. So
it's
they're
evolved.
giving us the, I think, BS story. I mean, I don't know if we were engineered from monkeys or not, but they don't want us to be seen as, you know, children of the creator, literal, not just children, but actually fractals of the creator.
Mm.
So they don't
Light
want us to know
beings,
that. They don't want us to know our
beings.
power.
Mm.
So they want to give us that story of the monkeys. That's where we came from, and Charles Darwin and all that stuff.
Can you see my
Yeah.
screen
Evolution of
change?
species.
Yeah,
Hmm.
Is
we
that,
can. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. We can see the
I
monolith.
mean, yeah. So you think the monoliths maybe negatively, or maybe just be bullshit?
No, I think maybe there's some kind of disclosure.
Oh,
Like
just
maybe,
okay.
Clark knew something about what was coming, and the monoliths, all of a sudden the
Hmm,
monoliths show up in our world.
that's true.
Mm.
And the only reason we know about monoliths is from 2001 Space Odyssey. And but he pictures them with monkeys.
Yep.
Mm. So
No, that's not who we are.
that's not. Yeah, no, no.
So
That's the
I,
problem.
I think what you're talking about makes a lot of sense,
And
that they're
also,
here to help us.
those monkeys didn't know or understand what that monolith was, right? They were jumping around like, oh, what is it? Oh my God. And that's, yeah, trying to program us to, you're just dumb monkeys. You don't understand this stuff. But just a thought, like if the grid is broken and, we know it's been severed in places, shall we say, I wonder if these monoliths are being set up to fill those gaps and to complete the circuit.
Could be.
I mean,
The other thing is
it
the
does make
movie
sense.
2010. It does make
Yep.
sense.
Yeah.
And the follow-on sequel to 2001 was 2010.
Yes.
And I saw that a long time ago.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's
But
been a while.
wasn't there something about Jupiter or something about where the monoliths came from? If you guys know,
I can't
that's all I
remember. It's
remember,
been a long time, but yeah, though he was going out to Jupiter or was it
or
Jupiter or
something like
Saturn,
that.
somewhere like that. It was
I'll
probably
find out.
Saturn, right? Knowing these
And
guys.
the actor said something wonderful is coming.
Yeah, because 2010, a
Have to
formal title
revisit
was
that.
called The Year We Make Contact. That was the title of the movie, 2010, The Year We Make Contact. Yeah, it
Interesting.
directly discusses the origins and purpose of the monoliths. The key revelations: the monoliths are tools of ancient advanced intelligence, not the creator themselves, but their instruments. The beings behind them evolved beyond physical form. They are now pure energy and consciousness. The monoliths are seeders of intelligence, placed to jumpstart life or accelerate evolution.
Wow.
The one on Earth, it helped apes evolve into humans. The one on Jupiter's moon, Europa, it triggers a new genesis. In 2010, the monoliths multiply, consuming Jupiter and transforming it into a second sun called Lucifer to warm Europa, where no life is beginning to form. So that's the summary. Oh my God.
What? Lucifer warming
Interesting.
Europa? That's
Yeah,
crazy.
that's interesting, isn't it?
Interesting.
Jeez, might have to do a
Yeah.
deep dive on that. That's insane.
Maybe we'll watch that movie at the Jolly at the farm
Yeah,
with
yeah,
our
and there's also
cinema.
that other movie. What's it called? Jupiter Rising?
Yeah,
Or
I know that one back to front. Yes,
yeah,
that
yeah,
that movie was my super soldier based my whole
yes.
origins on. So
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Geez,
But okay,
creepy movies.
so all right, so that's an interesting connection, the monoliths and Space Odyssey, and how that sort of, and it's definitely appeared on our realm. They're definitely here. They've appeared all over the world. They've stopped being documented as such, but they're definitely appearing. And yeah, people would jump around them like apes, trying to figure out what the fuck they are. Whether you can see the parallels, right? In Space Odyssey, they literally showed us apes, but how different are we today than those apes then? Like, it's basically the same image, right? They could have just showed us jumping around them. As far as our consciousness goes, in our memories and our deeper, all that stuff. So it's very, very interesting connection. And they sort of started appearing in the world in 2020. Which, do you remember when we watched Space Odyssey when that first came out? We were just like, 2020? That's
Yeah.
like science fiction, man. 2020? That's never going to happen. We even be alive to see it. 2020. So fuck.
And maybe the crop circles were the forerunners to get
Yeah,
us
let's.
prepared for the monoliths because they
Yeah.
started a long time, decades ago.
Yeah, yeah, back in the 80s. And there's this film clip. Probably got it somewhere of one being formed. Have you seen that? And it's got like the light orb just goes around and this crop circle appears. Very interesting, like a little
Yeah.
sprite or a fairy or something from. But yeah,
Yeah, so they're similar because like crop circles, they're sort of intricate and they appear in the dead of night. No tracks, no noise. Same as the monoliths, right? They just appear, no
Mm.
tracks, no noise. They're just there. And so they follow
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
And highly sophisticated designs. I mean, there's not two guys going around chomping down corn stalks.
No, no. And if you look into it, they've done experiments, and the crop circles, they're not broken. It's actually one side of the crop is grown faster than the other one in an instant, and that makes them bend over.
I've seen that. They're in a lot of different places. I mean, you hear about the ones in the UK, but they're in the US, they're in Canada, probably everywhere.
Yep, we've had them in
But we only hear about
Australia.
the ones that show up in the
Yeah.
United Kingdom.
So was there a link between so I know in 2020 obviously the monoliths started appearing, but did also the crop circles start to increase? Like was there a relationship
Oh,
in that time? Because if you look at like the monoliths, you could imagine they were transmitters, whereas the crop circles potentially receivers. Like, did they have a surge at the same
amplifiers.
time? Yeah. So I mean, I would say
Wait,
they have so many
wait.
similar characteristics.
The crop circles are like star forts, right? They're
Yes,
these
yes, they
cymatic
are.
geometric patterns.
Yeah.
So they're probably appearing on like, nodes of the energy grid where they cross and amplifying that energy out. And then the monoliths are like, the spires, right?
Which would make sense. And they actually, if you got into the monoliths, Michelle, you would see very quickly that they are specifically mathematically perfectly placed.
I bet
They
you
they
they
are
must
they
be.
are completely perfectly placed. And so yeah, so if we and I haven't looked at this yet, but if there was a surgence of the crop circles at the same time we got this surgence of monoliths, that would make sense to me. And probably roughly just kind of also the Mandala effect would also have been in that, time. And they seem all related. They seem related to me. The crop circles, the monoliths, the Mandala effect, and the grid. And of course,
Right.
we've got all these columns of light blue energy coming out of these old structures.
And then we have the whole red blue shift, right? Like it's always red or blue, and blue seems to be the better energy, right? The
The
positive,
positively
yeah, the
charged.
positively charged, yeah.
And also we've had quite a lot of those blue spirals that have been appearing in the
Yes, in the
sky.
skies, yes. Apparently one caused the blackout in Europe.
Really, I hadn't heard that, but yeah, that makes sense.
Mm.
Interesting. So what does it
And I
all
think
mean?
I think one of the takeaways from what we're talking about is we're not alone. We're not
We're
alone in
not
this.
I want to
alone.
believe.
We're not alone.
And I mean, we've got this.
Yeah, no,
I know
yeah,
there's a lot of concern, and they got far into it. But I did see this also about being this hero's journey, and the hero's journey being humanity, and the hero has to go through all kinds of tests and ordeals and two-headed monsters and all kinds of stuff, but wins in the end.
yep.
And so personally, I very much see a spiritual component,
Mm.
not only for humanity, but also the times that we're in, and that maybe this is a test, and I think we're going to pass the test. I mean, it looks like we are, but it
Yeah,
hasn't been easy. I mean, it's like, what was I thinking?
I know,
What
right?
am I
What
going
Like,
to
the
go down
fuck?
there for?
What the fuck?
I think
What
they
am I
like
doing
we didn't
here
read the fine print.
now?
It's like be
I
there
know,
for the
like,
finale, and we're like, yes, but we didn't read the fine print. Like,
It's like,
we'll
holy
take you
crap, this
50
is
or 60
hard.
years of crap to get there.
yeah, like I bought organic tobacco from your lovely American Spirit, and I got a letter today, basically telling me yesterday, telling me that it has been disposed
Seized,
of, disposed of by the
seized.
Australian government. Thank you very much. And like that sort of shit is when I'm like, what the fuck did I sign up for? Like that's the sort of thing that really, how can you sue the Australian government sort of vibe? Yep.
Like, because a bag of like tobacco here, not that I don't know if you know, but is $100. In America, you get bigger packets for $10.
Yeah. Anyway, that's side
Anyway,
side
that's
note,
our
bitch.
little
It's
Side
rigged.
note,
System's
bitch.
rigged.
Yeah.
systems
Side note,
rigged,
bitch.
man.
We're not even going to give them organic tobacco. Let them
Yeah.
suffer.
I
Well, this
know
is the
that.
thing now, the organic tobacco, that's the most expensive, and now it seems to be disappearing. You can't get it anywhere.
We're taxed under the guise of public health, but they only tax the organic tobacco. It's perfect. But
I
it's
know.
like it is to me the summary of the bit of this experience. It made me go, what did we sign up for? But
Hmm.
on the flip side, there is so much intriguing. I mean, can you imagine if we didn't have to work anything out? Like, what would we do
What
with our
would we do?
lives?
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
just
Right.
like this is part of such it's glorious to me. It's glorious for the human brain to wire and fire with other individuals who are collectively asking questions to evolve and advance their collective understanding of reality. Like that's a unique disposition. I don't think that many other experiences available to us would be putting us in that specific like situation. This
Hmm.
one is very fucking unique.
Yeah, it's like Tomb Raider or those games like Myst where it's like this big mystery you've got to sort of get through and push the right buttons and pull the right crank and reveal it, right? Reveal the ending.
Yeah, it's like that game. Do you remember that game where you had that little silver ball and you had to like get it through a maze? Games were much more fun in the 80s. They were quite three-dimensional and there was shit going on and you had parts to everything. Like that's the sort of what it feels like, this
Mm.
ride that we're on. But that's like today has been quite eye-opening, mate. Like, to connect it to I mean, we just haven't gone down this pathway with all
No,
of this.
no,
And
that's a hot, yeah, we'll definitely, yeah,
And
look into
so
that.
many people are experiencing and talking about things like the Mandela effect and crop circles and the monoliths, but like to bring them all together and to like, so I just want to end by bringing it all together. So, from the best of your knowledge, Michelle, like with all those topics in mind, like, and the original ley line, which you have spent your last decade researching really, really methodically. Like, I will highly recommend our audience to go and check out Michelle's work because she is a fantastic researcher, far surpasses Cambell and I, far surpasses us. We rely heavily on our imagination, but Michelle actually is methodical in how she presents and the information she puts together. So, really, it's a pleasure to listen to and to understand. So, from that grand introduction to your work, Michelle, not to put you on pressure or anything, because like
Info,
I
yeah.
just built you up there. I just put you on a pedestal. I did the worst thing possible. I put Michelle on the pedestal and us in the
Oh
pit,
my
Campbell.
gosh.
Oh my
So
God. No.
all you have to do now is just tell us what's the answer to
Yeah,
everything,
tell us
Michelle.
the
What's
tell us
going
just
on
tell us
down
the
here?
truth.
Hey,
What's
I'm just
going
an ordinary
on?
person with a
Nah.
calling.
Yeah. So we've got some variables and we're bringing them all together in this conversation. And like where would that now lead us moving forward? Like what is the potential of what's coming forward
Well,
with
first of
all
all,
of this?
there's the unknown with what hasn't come up yet that will come up synchronistically. That's a big part of my path. I didn't even plan it. Like this conversation, all the different things that have come together and converged, with what you're following with monoliths, which I haven't even looked at, and what I'm following with ley lines and what's coming up from that.
Yeah.
And compiling the evidence to say, hey, this is what I'm seeing. This is why I think this.
Yeah.
Um, but I think we've kind of summarized it along the way. There is a higher consciousness that we have access to that is also here to help us.
Which we
And
are. We are.
we have to take our machete and kind of cut our way through the jungle of information and misinformation and try to figure out what resonates and what fits and what to cast aside because the lies are there.
Mhm.
We have more lies than anything else. And they, like I said earlier, they don't always come from the bad guys. I mean, the good guys aren't telling us everything either, so we don't know the whole picture. Because if we know the whole picture, for darn sure the bad guys know the whole picture. So we don't even get exactly what's up with that.
Yeah.
No.
Um, but there's something much bigger than we are going on. And, in answer to the question of why did I come down here? This is really too hard. It's like, I know why I came down here. It's because what happens here on Earth now will affect the future of the universe. And if these dark entities were allowed to get away with what they had planned, that ain't going to be no fun place for nobody anywhere.
Mm.
And, that same type of vampiric energy harvesting energy would just keep on going. So Earth is probably the most watched place because of what's happening now. And from the level of consciousness that we've been at for however long to going to another level, which my understanding is like the consciousness of the heart, which is our true center,
Yeah.
not our brain, but our heart. And get out of our brains are polarized anyway with the right brain and the left brain. And the heart doesn't have that. And so, we get in our heads, we overthink, we doubt, we second guess, we can stay in our heart. And I'm not saying I'm great at that. I'm not. But I understand it intellectually
Mm.
that this is our true center. So when you talk about the fall of man and the fall of consciousness, you're, basically going from your heart to your brain.
Mm.
And then they've used that against us by setting us out as separate and, the whole ego mind and having to know or having to be right or whatever it is.
Mm.
There's big spiritual lessons still to be learned,
Yeah.
but it can happen in an environment that supports that, which the current environment doesn't really support that.
Mm. Yeah. We've just got to ignore the division because it's all basically division,
Yeah.
isn't it? That's what they really want to do. Keep us apart, stop us talking, stop us creating. So if the rule of thumb is anything that divides is the agenda, that's kind of a good place to start, right? Ignore anything that causes division. That's the agenda.
I mean, it's the gift, isn't it?
It's not us.
It's our gift. It's the gift of this experience. That is that is why I believe we're all here. It's the spiritual evolution that we're all undergoing. Because I've said it to Campbell so many times, like we cannot evolve with prejudice in our hearts. Like it's
No.
the prejudice that it like if I can fine tune the vibrational emotion that has trapped us the most and fucked us the most, it's prejudice.
Yeah.
And not just to fucking races, but to like every single thing. Like we are highly prejudiced culture and society now on
Yeah.
every fucking topic. And that is the most lowest form of evolution, I believe. And
Yeah.
I have to pop away for 1 second because the plumber's
Okay.
just
Carry
turned
on.
up. Just fuck. Just God.
But yeah, that's the thing. Prejudice, like the base line of prejudice is we're not all connected, isn't it? We're all separate. I'm better than you, we're different, right? God is not in us. We're not part of it, of the God, the creative spirit. It's outside of us, so but yeah, I mean, I think I agree. We're going somewhere better. I think that the signs are all around us. There's big changes coming, and I think we're going into a positive charge, is one way to put it. And that means that, you know, those in charge will be the positive ones, right? At the moment, those in charge are the negative ones because it's a negative charge. So we'll become the ones in charge, and ultimately we won't need leaders to look up to and all this kind of stuff because we'll realize that's us. And we're already here, right? It's like they say, we're the ones we've been waiting for.
Yeah. So it's really, like the evolution of our consciousness.
Mm.
And early on in my journey, I learned about concepts like that. And
I mean, we're graduating, right? We're graduating. We're in the graduating year. It's muck up week, so everything's gone crazy. But but at the end, we won't get those square hats on our heads, but we will we will graduate, right? Maybe we'll get the
Right,
360 degrees of the Moorish Masons, right?
right, right. And that's what it was. They had 360 degrees, the circle.
Yep, the circle.
And the Freemasons had 33 as their highest. And you
Yep.
think about it, 32, or at least in the Fahrenheit system, 32 is frozen. So like 0
Ah,
Celsius. But
interesting. Yeah, right.
in Fahrenheit, 32 is the freezing
Hmm.
degree.
Yep.
So
And
they got frozen.
when you go to university and pay 100 grand, you only get 1 degree. You only get the first degree. So don't do that, people. Think for yourself. All right. Well, while
Yeah.
we're waiting for Miss Kelly to come back and say goodbye, um, yeah, is there anything else you want to add?
There is, and it left my head. It's talking about that
Yes,
brain.
I don't know what it
Yeah,
is.
it's like my
Too
retention for
much.
other things isn't that long. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I just really want to encourage people, you know, I have I see miracles every day. I think we all have miracles every day. That's what synchronicities are. It's like, how in the heck did this just happen when something comes from out of the blue that connects with maybe something I'm thinking about or doing or a connection I need for information or whatever. I mean, it's not planned. It's just like there.
Hmm.
Those are little miracles.
Yes, and it's not
And
always your
and the reason
phone,
they've
like
done it,
it's not always your phone spying on you. Sometimes a lot of time it's a miracle.
but the bottom line is they can't do what they did. They had to trick us.
Yep.
Yeah.
And and they can't. We're sovereign beings. That's why they've gone to all this trouble. That's why they just can't come in and destroy everything.
Yeah.
But like my
I mean,
question is always like, why? Why bother? Like, what is it that's so,
They're
like,
they're
why bother
soulless
doing
and
all of
parasitic,
this?
man. They're not us.
But
we're very humanity is very special.
do you
So
think that
by knocking us to our lowest level of consciousness, not knowing that we're a fractal of the creator,
mm,
if they can control us, they're controlling the creator.
they can control more. Yeah, yeah, good
but
point.
you
And
do believe, sorry, God.
no, I was just going to say the biggest victims of the genocide of the controllers were the original people.
Oh, totally.
They
Yeah.
got kicked back the furthest. They got genocided the most. They got the baddest rap. Even though they've been doing the same thing to all of us, they have particular viciousness for the original people. They don't want advanced humans. They want
No.
controllable slaves.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, which is then yeah, the whole Android robot thing that's going on at the
But that
moment. That's a
means,
whole nother discussion, right?
mhm.
And I guess time, that experience of time, it may be and probably is remarkably different from our experience of time. So what appears to be that they've been working on this diabolical plan and plot for like hundreds of years, from their perspective, it may be a very short, like they may be out of time. They may not even have a concept of time.
Mm,
Which, because I always think, God, it takes so long for you to manipulate this whole thing. So much. Like it's such a big, long, slow play out. And what's the
yeah,
benefit
yeah.
at the end of it? What do you get at the end of all of this? Like, and if you exist independently of this hijacking, then why bother? Like there must be many more convenient pathways to
Mm,
like devour a civilization and culture in the way, because that's where I get confused. I think it's not like they're coming in and devouring it like, we see in all the movies, you've got these invasions that come in and then in a week, the world's gone, in a week, it's
yeah, but
devoured and destroyed. Like it's the same end
because
result.
it's the consent. They
Right.
need to do that's consent. They can't, this is the thing. And they're just, it's like, why does a leech jump on your leg and suck your blood out? Because that's what it is. It's just a leech, right? And that's what these parasites are. They're just parasitic.
But didn't we give consent like back in the fucking 40s and 30s? like
Well,
was
we weren't
wasn't
alive back then.
but our parents or our non whatever the time frame is, the consent would have
It's
happened much
it
easier back
consent.
then.
It's like I calls it like the totalitarian tiptoe, right? They have to do it incrementally and
Oh, it just
slowly
seems
change. So that's why in the 60s started bringing in like mini skirts and the bikinis, to start, and then it was like the rebel and get kids to, not like their parents to be out on their own. And then
rock
fast
and
forward to
roll, bring in rock and
2025,
roll.
right? And they're educating our kids at university and telling them that they're different genders and just go out
It
and,
just it
like
seems so
get as
long
many people
though.
as you can. It's an incremental thing. And to them, it could be different, right? Because they do worship Saturn, right? The time, Chronos.
Mm.
Yeah,
So
I just what is the purpose of the log play here? Just to enslave us as programmed bots? Like, what is the purpose? They don't even like the Earth. It's not
so
like
I think they were pushing us towards transhumanism,
just so they
and
could live
if
through us, so they could transfer
so
their
they could live
conscious.
through us,
Yeah.
so they could hack the human and transfer consciousness into a cyborg, because in effect they're destroying the host.
Mm,
They're destroying their host as a parasite. So why don't, like you said, don't they even know that they're destroying their host? But I think that's why they were so set on creating artificial everything, artificial reality, virtual reality,
mm.
get people into the mindset of, watching
Anti-creation.
television and then the games and the video games, and all of a sudden you're living in this fake world.
Yeah,
Um, and
yeah, man. That's a world for your
and so I
mind,
think that's what they've been, they were trying to get our energy, and so they could live forever, because
So
without us they're nothing.
Yeah.
would then you theorize that they're all from a non-physical form? So that's where we would go back to this concept of artificial intelligence, advanced intelligence. Like it just you have to create the interface to you like the jinn, the demons, they're always put in that fourth dimensional, electrical field. Like they don't exist in physical form until it's like it's imagined or brought forth, like someone like Aleister Crowley. Like how physical was the experience he had with these entities? For them to have to work so hard, it seems that they have to work so hard to basically occupy a human form. Like it would appear to me there would be much easier ways to do this, especially at this level of ignorance that the human race is now in. Then
Mm.
this very slow play out with the transformation of the grid and the destruction of, like, it seems like such
Well,
an
it,
archaic way of doing it.
whoever they or it is, it's not very intelligent. It has no creativity. It
All
just has
right,
the
We're
same
yes.
their
play
we're their
plan over and
creativity.
over, right?
They need human creativity.
Yeah,
But
Yeah,
exactly.
and maybe, I mean, again, this has been a long-term plan. So
but
maybe this
why?
was the best they could come up with.
Because it's a
Why?
parasite. It just where it's food,
All
basic.
right. So you're saying its whole creation myth is to conquer and overtake. It's that's its
To subdue
creation myth.
us. And they've already got a lot of people like worshipping these entities outside of them, which is what these parasites are. That's what they want because that gives them, loose energy, as we call it. Like they're
I
energetic
think that's what they've been playing
vampires.
for.
Mm,
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what they've been playing for. Um, but again, I don't believe they're going to get away with it. And again, maybe it's
they're
the best that
done.
they could come up with. It's like, okay, we're going
No.
to infiltrate
Yeah,
Masonry and we're going to take credit for all this stuff. I think the Jesuits were highly involved with the rewrite of history and things like that.
for sure.
Along with
Josephus.
the probably the Freemasons
Yeah,
and other secret societies. And but the thing now, the big difference now, it's like we're at that tipping point because we can see it.
we can see it, man. It's the apocalypse,
You
a
know,
great unveiling.
those with eyes to see can actually see. You're muted. You're
Oh,
muted,
you're
dear.
muted, Cal.
I'm
Thanks
all
for the
over the
You're making
place.
faces.
I'm not good at 8 a.m. Look at all the chaos that happens in my life at 8 a.m. Um,
Yes. And
Sorry
yeah,
about that.
that's right. We'll have to wrap it up because I got to go and
In my
get some
defense, I did offer
acupuncture.
you 10 a.m. your time.
no,
Yeah,
it's
10 a.m.
So
So
like
And you came back with 8 a.m. I'm like, great, that works for me.
we're being loving.
Mandela Effect.
I mean, it does still feel to me that they would have always known that there was that there would be a natural, organic, counteractive move from the awakening human consciousness that would bring down their entire plan. They must have already known this. So it still feels to me so like clumsy the way they've had to go about it. Like it feels so clumsy, you know? And then what's
It's,
the outcome of all that?
I just
Like,
think it's because they're stupid and pathetic, and they're a
so
bunch
maybe
of
that,
losers.
well, it's like, I mean, I like your analogy of the leech. You know, it's like a leech trying to take
Hmm.
over a whole population. From the perspective of where we
Yeah,
stand, a
it's
leech is
like
this small and
hmm.
easily plucked off and stepped on.
Yeah, it's like the scorpion and the frog, right? You know, the frog
Well,
gives the
even in the
scorpion the lift across the water, and then the scorpion stings him and kills him. He says, "Why did you do that?" He said, "It's in my nature. It's just what I am."
All right. Well, that's a nice, all right, Campbell. That's very nice.
It's
You've summed it
very
up
Zen
very
Buddhist of
nicely.
me, right?
Very
Yes.
zen. I mean, I can take that. That's a nice consideration. Like it's just their nature. That's easy
Hmm.
and simple. The truth is usually the most simple. It's just their
Sherlock Holmes,
nature.
man. Yeah.
Yep. And from their perspective, it's been like an intricate play out to basically hijack
Hmm.
a very highly conscious God being,
Yeah.
which is us, right?
And they failed big time.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, so you would just on this just before we end, the
Yes.
crop circles and the monoliths are coming in to this realm not via us. So yes, would you concur with that? Or is it our yes, so yes, they're coming in from like the cheer squad, the support team,
The cheese
the
squad.
like yeah, the cheese squad, the cheese squad that is also connected to in for some reason into this thing that's happening here on this realm right now. Do you
Hmm.
think that what's happening here on this realm is impacting all realms? Do you, because you heard that story, right? That what's happening here on Earth is like
Hmm.
it's so important because it's going to impact timelines and reality for all sorts of dimensions and
Hmm.
vibrations and realities. What do you think about that? Like, is Earth some like heart of all of this? Like, is it some what happens here
Well,
is
yeah, you answer, Michelle.
I was going to say that resonates perfectly. I mean,
Hmm.
even when you get into the flat Earth plane planet thing, and I'm there with flat Earth. I mean, that's a result of my research. I didn't have an opinion. I think the Earth is the center of the universe,
Hmm.
and
okay. All
and
right.
everything is going around us,
Well, that would make
and
sense.
and that Earth was like the physical manifestation of the Creator, the Garden of Eden, and so this was
Mm.
a life, development of life, and I think the original civilization had fun. I think it was set up for that. The trolley parks um, that got destroyed with everything else.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that was part of the grid system. I think they're having a blast until
The
evil,
airship.
evil decided to come in and just decided to come in and crash the party.
Crash the party,
And
man.
Because they're
Yeah.
not the
and so
fun
like
guys. They're not the fun
they're not
guys.
fun. So I think Earth was like Grand Central Station, and all of the healing frequencies from the organs and
Okay,
the the solfeggio, the
that
cathedral
makes
windows we
sense.
saw at the New World
It all
Concert,
radiates out.
artwork,
Mm.
um, bell towers. I think those were all not only going out through the grid, I think they were going out everywhere else
Upwards,
as well.
outwards.
All right,
Mm.
well that
And
makes
then
sense. That makes sense to me.
Fractals.
That would justify all of this like carry on from them. That would justify
Mm.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And if it's all a fractal, then just getting into one of those pieces, which happens to be us, they get access to everything.
And then here we are, the old guards.
We are, man.
Flock down in abundance to
We're the last defense here
the
to take
last
them down.
defenders. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
man.
And
Defenders of
because
the
it's a war
realm.
on consciousness, it's a war on consciousness. So this isn't a physical go be a warrior and go to war like usual in the timeline. This is a war of the
But
mind.
that's their timeline, right? They want to think us to think it's about the physical, but it's not, because that's just the illusion, right?
Mm.
they've been working so hard on mind control. you know, like you said, they control our minds. They
So
got it.
hard.
Mm-hmm.
So hard. Which would then
Yes.
I'm going back to the original question, which is then I would, from this conversation, maybe start to like theorize that the Mandela effect is a result of us coming in up against this energy. If you've got a population, a fraction of a population that's like fractured off, like created, we're almost like a fractal. We've fractured off from this hijacking, and our consciousness is just like untouchable on that level. Like,
Yeah.
there's no fucking way that any of this could be like, I couldn't be convinced by anything they had to say or any trick they had to play or pull. Like, we've broken through that for the most part. I mean, there's always stuff, but for the most part. And that would cause a real rift, right? A real rift in the grid, would it not? If you've got a consciousness like ours that are like thriving and seeing through all of this and, you know, like shining the light in the dark. So that's what we're essentially doing. We're shining the light into this deception and, you know, exposing it. And that would in fact like weaken its power and literally its power. So then the you know, our consciousness is generating a power, a literal power. And the two now are up against each other, creating really weird shit.
Mm.
I can go with that, Kelly. I had a couple of other thoughts, but that's a good summary.
Yes, and I really have to get going. I've got an acupuncture appointment I need to make, so might have to call here. But I mean, maybe we'll have to do this again in a couple of weeks, right? And continue the conversation because it's definitely interesting and it doesn't seem to be finished.
Yeah, I concur. Like, Rochelle, that's been fantastic, fantastic contribution, like really good. And I really feel like this conversation and the elements that we've brought together in this conversation is lacking in content. Like, it's not out there much. You can't really, you know, just like YouTube it. It's not really there. People aren't really connecting these more subtle dots. So I think it's really powerful because to me, this conversation highlights an observational point, a lighthouse. Is that we're basically observing it from a unique perspective right now, and yet we're living in it at the same time. So we're able to observe it and experience it at the same time. And that's very unique thing to be in. And that's why this whole experience is a gift for our spiritual evolution, right?
It is. But I have to stop talking, woman.
Oh, but no one can take it away from us, is what I'm saying. Like when we leave this realm, you can't take this away from us. This becomes our wisdom. This is our wisdom growing. Like, you know, I'm just saying, like, it's so valuable. It's so valuable to us in the future and long term. Yeah. Anyway, okay, Campbell.
It is. Too many words. We will continue this. We'll be in touch.
Yes, and we came here to do this. This is why we're here.
Yeah, I agree. We're all here for a
Otherwise,
reason.
we wouldn't have bothered. No, too much trouble.
Wouldn't have bothered. Couldn't get my tobacco. Can't get my fucking tobacco. Hey, mate.
Thank you, Michelle. That was amazing.
So
really
good,
enjoyed it.
Loved it. And apologies for my distraction. That's my domestic life flitting around me in the background.
We'll leave a link to Michelle's channel below if you haven't seen it. And of course, tartariaaustralia.com. Go check it out. Do all the cool stuff on there. And we will catch you in a week. And yeah, we'll be in touch, Michelle. And let's do this again.
Yeah, and just before you go, before you guys go, I have to show you the end result when we finally finished. Look where the bastard is. He's right here. Oh my God.
Sherlock Holmes. What are you
2
doing?
hours later, driving me mental. Anyway, sorry, I just had to show you that.
All right, guys.
Everyone.
Love you. Love you all. Yeah.
Thank you both.
Have an amazing week. We'll talk to you next upload.
Oh, fucking yes.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thanks, Michelle. Amazing.